All right, thanks everyone for being patient while we got started here. My name is Maddie Peck. I'm the Director of Partnerships at Gooten. For those of you who've been with us for a while, you might recognize my voice. I did a bunch of webinars for the company last summer and last holiday season, so I'm super excited to be back. Today we're going to talk about how to set up your store for success during the holidays. Obviously a stressful and busy time of year for anyone familiar with e-commerce. We want to make sure that we're doing what we can at Gooten to set you up for success and answer any questions that you have before the busiest time of the year. So with that, I'll jump a little bit into what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to give you some background about what Gooten's done to prepare for the holiday season, how we think about things like production time and order cutoff dates during the holidays. And then I'm also going to introduce my co-host, Todd Heft, who's joining us from Funnel Cake, and he's going to talk to you about some store setup and organization so that you can really get ahead of the holidays and make sure that you're marketing and engaging with your customers in a really effective way. All right, I also wanted to just quick housekeeping note, let everyone know, please throw questions into the webinar chat. We are going to save time for Q&A at the end. And I will take a look at the chat throughout. If I see something that's really timely to what we're talking about, I'll try to pause and answer that question in context or kind of cue that up to Todd. But if we miss anything, we'll make sure to come back at the end and go through those questions to make sure that we get those out. So just let everybody know. All right, so I want to first start by talking a little bit about how Gooten prepares for the holiday season. So I'm looking at some names on this list in terms of who's joined us. I recognize some of you, I don't recognize others. So I'm guessing that we probably have a pretty good mix today of people who are familiar with Gooten, have worked with us for a little bit, and people who are brand new or just kind of checking us out. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of where we think the holiday prep should begin. Spoiler alert, it starts literally January 2nd when we all get back from our vacations after taking some for Christmas break or holiday break. But in reality, we really start thinking about the holiday season in kind of May and June each calendar year. And what that means for us is that we spend a lot of time talking with our manufacturing partners and making sure that they're set up for success going into the holidays, because obviously as a technology company, Gooten doesn't own the underlying equipment, but we do partner and have strategic partnerships with manufacturers that do. So a lot of that relationship comes down to us sending them forecasts, diving into any product or production issues that we've seen early in the year, making sure those get kind of rectified and make sure that we're going to the season with our best foot forward so that you can as well. And we actually do site visits and tours with all of our major facilities to walk the production floors, meet with their QA and QC staff, and really understand and identify if there are any gaps in the process that could come back to bite us later in the year. So we have an operations team that manages a lot of this. I've gone on several facility tours myself, as with our CEO. So we really start that preparation early in May and June to kind of get ahead of things. But what we've been doing for the last probably 4 to 6 weeks is really diving into the details of making sure that our system is set up to handle incoming orders from you. So on the server side and kind of technology side for us, that's meant scaling up a lot of our capacity to handle more volume, more images, kind of more activity in the system so that the Gooten platform is working quickly and functionally for you. We've done a lot of work and are going to be releasing some new features on the customer service side to kind of help you manage any issues that do come up, like getting reprints processed faster, making sure you can track those reprints as they go through production. We've done a lot of work on the shipping side, trying to maximize what shipping carriers we're using in terms of speed, keeping costs flat or lowering them where we can. And we've also added a lot of product redundancy and production redundancy to our network. So one of the big benefits of the Gooten model is that you're not locked to a single manufacturer. And this is something I talk with partners about all the time. Obviously, there's benefits to having that direct relationship, but one of the best things about our business model is really that you can contract, still have the benefits of a relationship with a single supplier, which is Gooten, but also get the flexibility and kind of business risk mitigation that comes with having a network of manufacturers where you can move volumes in. So across our product catalog, we look at our best sellers, kind of any products where we feel that there could be additional risk given the location of a manufacturer or their production capacity, and then we add redundant capacity for that same product in our system. So if anyone was with us last year and you remember when Colorado Timberline shut down, we had redundancy built into our system for almost all of the CTL products, and we were able to move volumes within 24 hours, so no order got left behind, and we were still shipping things out in the intended time frame to customers. So obviously that's really important throughout the year, but that's especially important in the holidays. We do a lot of redundancy planning and kind of risk mitigation planning. So in case the worst does happen, we have everything in our control to the extent we can to make sure that your orders still get out and get processed. So that's a little bit about kind of what we've been up to. I'll take a pause here, take a look at the chat. Questions, don't see anything yet, so that's great. All right, and now I'll dive into a little bit more about important dates. So this is the #1 question that we get from partners as they're starting to think about the holiday season of when do I need to get my orders into your system to give the best chance of them arriving by Christmas. So we sent out, I believe it was last week, Colin, sent out an email to our partners announcing some of our preliminary kind of order cutoff dates. We prefer to look at this in terms of a range, and this whole calendar is based off of the idea that something takes 4 business days to get produced. That's true for almost all of Gooten's products in terms of the expected production time. In reality, there are a lot of products in our system that get produced way faster than 4 business days, and we see that consistently, and I'm sure any of you ordering with us have probably realized that about some of your orders too. It's like, oh, well, my mugs usually seem to go out in 2 days, but my blankets usually actually take those 3 to 4 days. As a general rule, we try to stick to that kind of 4-day benchmark because it's pretty accurate a lot of the time in terms of expectation setting, and this is what our holiday dates are based off of. That said, we are going to send out additional communications and materials showing you some of the average production times for our products so that you can kind of narrow in more on like what you're specifically selling and trying to figure out what you can best plan for, and also alerting you if any of the products that you do sell have a longer expected production time. So something like a crib sheet that can take up to 6 days because it's hand sewn and that process is longer. But anyway, I won't digress too much on the product side. These are the ranges that we've started with for this year based off of the different types of shipping that you select at checkout. So you can see that standard shipping, we're estimating that we'll probably need orders in our system by the 10th of December or so at the latest. Expedited would be around that 13th, and then overnight would be around that 16th. So as I just said, though, previously, we are doing work to kind of decrease shipping times, decrease production times wherever we can. So you should definitely expect to see more communications from us as we get closer to the holidays on what some of those production dates are. And last year, we actually ran a promotion where we were able to offer free shipping upgrades on some of our product categories to help you extend your selling time. Hopefully be able to do that this year. I'm sure my CFO somewhere is screaming at me for saying this again, but we try to do whatever we can to kind of extend this selling window as long as possible while still giving you a really good shot at having your customers' orders delivered by the 24th, because that's obviously a very important day. This stuff is important. Read it, review it, ask us questions about it, and definitely check your emails for anything related to holiday production times, order cutoffs, all that good stuff, because we want to make sure we're getting you the information you need. Next thing, and very much related to this, I was alluding to this earlier, is turnaround times, production times, SLAs. There's a bunch of different ways to talk about this. Really what this means is how long does it take for something to get produced? A lot of times when you're speaking with someone in the manufacturing industry, they'll talk about an SLA. An SLA is a service level agreement. That's basically what the manufacturer and the buyer have agreed to as this is the expectation for how long it should take to make this thing. And so we'll try to avoid using that jargon, but if you hear it, that's what it means. So as I said, the majority of Gooten's products that we offer through our on-demand manufacturing partners take about 4 business days to make. There are exceptions to that where there's ones that take longer. For example, there's certain types of apparel where we don't keep a particular color or model stocked at the vendor, and so it has to be ordered in before it can get printed on. So those things can add a couple days to production time. Some of the products that are hand sewn or are really customized from a sewing perspective can take longer. Anyone who's ever sewn a crib sheet can probably sympathize with that. But all of this information on the product level is listed in our catalog. So I definitely encourage you to familiarize yourself, if you're not already, with the kind of expectation for how long something could take to get produced. Because it's very important to try to communicate these expectations back to your customers. So the first thing, though, to notice about these SLAs is, and I get this question all the time, what changes during the holiday season? Like, my mugs are getting produced in 2 days in June, and that's awesome, and I love that, but what's gonna happen the week after Black Friday? Is it gonna take 4 days? Is it gonna take 10 days? Like, what do I expect? Gooten, please help me. What I always tell partners is think about trying to shove a lot of different fabric through this tiny funnel, right? That's what our manufacturers are essentially doing during the holiday. It's kind of a crude analogy, but where they usually have this regular flow of orders coming through and they can plan accordingly. For those crazy weeks between Black Friday and Christmas, they're trying to get as many things pushed through that funnel as possible in the shortest amount of time. They staff up, they add additional capacity, they add additional machines. Most of them work 24-hour shifts through the weekends to try to get your orders out. But even with all of that said, you should expect, as pretty normal course of business, that sometimes things can take 1 to 2 days longer during the holiday season. So that means if you're seeing that your orders are typically going out in that kind of 3 to 4 day time frame, they might in some cases take 5 to 6 days to get out during the holiday season. We are super proactive about monitoring this with our manufacturing partners, because anyone who's been in this industry knows the horror stories of some holiday seasons past where we've seen 15 production day SLAs with some vendors in the industry. I won't name names, but we are very conscious of making sure that as soon as something starts to look late, we already are reaching out to the vendor to make sure everything is okay. So that is a subtle way of me saying, and now I will say it not so subtly, that if something looks a little bit late for you, we've already contacted the vendor about it, so you really don't need to send us an email asking us to do that, because I assure you we're on top of it. But definitely try to set your expectations that a day or two delay is not the end of the world. And almost all of the times after that, the order's still going to get there in time. If it's not, we will do our best on your behalf to try to help upgrade shipping or push something out. The second point on this slide is where can I learn more from Gooten about turnaround times? As I already said, check out the product catalog. That has the dates on there that you should kind of generally know for the products that you're selling. And we're also going to send up some follow-on material after this webinar to everyone who's joined and anyone who's selling with us with our holiday landing page. There's a lot of material on that you can read through that has the statistics I mentioned about averages and how to count production days and kind of familiarize yourself with all of that and how we think about it. But really what I think is one of the most important pieces and what can help just avoid a ton of headache during the holidays is setting expectations for your customers. So we are all incredibly spoiled in the age of Amazon. I ordered like vitamins yesterday and they showed up the same day. It was crazy. But that is not how on-demand manufacturing works, as we all know. Things take time because these are custom-made products, which is super cool. And they're all unique and they're all made for your customers as they order them. So what I've seen partners do that seems very successful is set expectations if you're comfortable with your customers to basically say, hey guys, you know what's super cool about when you order this blanket from me? This is actually getting custom printed for you. I'm not pulling this off the shelf somewhere. This is a custom product I'm making for you every single time. A lot of customers don't really get the concept of print on demand, but they will understand the concept of, oh, this is something that like isn't just sitting in a warehouse that they're pulling off the shelf. They're actually like making it for me and printing it for me. That's pretty cool. That also drives brand value when someone thinks that they're getting something unique or more custom. It can help you kind of justify a price point there. I also have seen customers allude to a processing time or a handling time, especially in their FAQs or on their orders page, just to make sure that they're setting expectations of how long customers need to wait before they see that tracking number. So a lot of people are like me, you're refreshing your page being like, when is it going to ship? When is it going to ship? And then you send in 3 customer service emails. You want to try to avoid that, because if all of your customers do that, it's going to be a very busy holiday season for you. And then also do give the customer a point of recourse if they have additional questions. I'm a huge fan of having FAQs on your site and having a knowledge base if you want to have one, and just try to keep it simple so people can self-serve if they do have a question or an issue, obviously before giving them a path to get to you if they need it. There's a lot of great e-commerce FAQs out there from big brands all the way to small brands. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but kind of take best practices from other stores that you like where you're shopping online and you're like, oh, this person does a really great job of explaining to me like, how the handling works for this product. And so I don't even want to email a person at this point. But setting expectations is really important. If you ever have questions, please ask Gooten. We will try to help you. The thing that I hate to see is someone who says to their customer, oh yeah, it'll be shipped out to you in 2 days. And then they turn around and are like, what the heck, Gooten? Why isn't it shipped? And we're like, we're so sorry, we want to help you, but this product takes like 4 days to be produced, not 2. So we want to avoid those conversations because those are unpleasant for everyone. We always want to try to help you, but in those scenarios where we've kind of you've set expectations up front with your customer and they're upset, you're upset, we're going to be upset, we're going to be trying to help you. It's just no fun. So try to get all that stuff sorted before you go into the holidays and make your life a lot easier going forward. Related to this, and another great segue, is customer service. So I will tell you all how the story ends ahead of time. There will be something that goes wrong during the holiday season. I don't know what it is. None of us know what it is, unfortunately. Last year, it was a Canadian postal strike on the first week of December. It was very inconvenient. But there will be something that happens, right? If that's with a specific order, if that's a snowstorm in Missouri and something can't ship out and USPS isn't delivering, there will be some uncertainty, right? And you can't plan for that. But what you can plan for is what to do when that uncertainty happens and being prepared and understanding how we think about those scenarios as well. So I strongly encourage anyone working with Gooten or even just curious about working with us, definitely check out our knowledge base, take a read through the materials that we have online. As I said, we're going to be sending out a very in-depth holiday landing page. There's a lot of materials on best practices from what we've seen in the industry, a customer service guide with our policies and FAQs so you understand where we're coming from and how we think about rectifying issues on your behalf. A lot of data on product sales and production times and error rates and all of that good stuff. So definitely check out these resources and try to keep attending these webinars. We're going to do a really deep dive on our next webinar, October 16th, on the customer service side of things, because I know this is where we all get anxious of customers emailing and we don't have an answer and what are we going to do and is Gooten going to help me? Are they going to respond to me in time? A lot of anxiety. We are 100% your partner. We want to make sure we're here for you this holiday season. But we're giving you customer service that is effective and fast so that you can turn around and talk to your customers in a way that makes them happy, makes them want to become repeat buyers. So most important thing is just be prepared, do the reading now, educate yourself now while you have time and you're not fielding customer service inquiries or trying to ramp up marketing spend right before Black Friday, because that'll make your holiday season a lot easier. When people ask me what's the #1 thing I can do to prepare, I actually always say customer service. Todd might disagree with me later. Obviously having your site set up and products and all that stuff is super, super important, actually monetizing on spend. But in terms of preparation, just really know your customer service policies in and out, have that FAQ, know how to work with us, all that good stuff, because it will make your life so much easier going forward. All right, and with that, I alluded to Todd disagreeing with me. I hope he does. I'm interested to hear what he talks about. I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Todd Heft, who is a partner and director at Funnel Cake. We're very lucky to have Todd joining us. He has a lot of knowledge that will be really interesting to learn about as we're thinking about store organization and SEO and how you can really put your best foot forward with your customers on your website before going into this busy time of year. So with that, I will turn it over to Todd. Todd, I think you might be muted, so you might have to click unmute, and I will mute myself so you don't get any background noise. Unmute. All right,
there
Todd,
there
you go.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks a lot. Hello, everybody. And yes, to your point about customer service, it is very, very critical because customer service also comes after the sale too. If somebody has problems or whatnot, and how you resolve those problems is essential. So you can consider customer service part of your overall marketing efforts. But I'm here to talk about, I guess, the first part, the most important part, and the most curious part for most people is how you organize your store so that it's easy to find things. We've managed a lot of e-commerce, and even people who are selling millions of dollars a year in e-commerce sometimes have a mess of an organization. And you say, so what? They're selling millions of dollars. And I say, it can always be a lot better. If you're using an ad strategy to drive users to product pages, I mean, like the organization suddenly doesn't really figure because they're just going there, they're buying the product, they're converting instantly, and boom, it's done. However, for the person that lands on your home page, that's a completely different thing. They're at what we call the top of the funnel, the sales funnel, the digital marketing funnel. Okay, so these are the people who are just aware of your brand, and you have to move them through your website to the conversion. All right, so ease of navigation is absolutely essential, and that covers a number of things. The ease of navigation has to be such that you can find what you're looking for very, very quickly. And I'm sure everybody has had this experience, especially when you go to a really big, complex website. You can't find what you're looking for, you bail, right? If you can find what you're looking for very, very quickly, you're much more likely to convert. So the organization, which we call the hierarchy, is really, really essential. To break that down, you want to keep your top level category products. Okay, if you sell t-shirts, if you sell mugs, if you sell aprons, whatever the case is, you want to make sure that those nouns are at the top, because that's basically how people search in a broad way for what you're selling. So that's kind of where you start. Now, it gets more difficult from there, because if you sell 10 products, your organization is pretty simple. I mean, you can fit all of that in your nav. But if you sell thousands of products, now that becomes a lot more difficult, and you have to think a lot more about it. I think the best place to start is to understand your customer. Who is your customer? That's what you have to think about. Who is your customer? How do they shop? Why are they here? What do they want to see most? A lot of that data comes to you after you've been up a while, and you can see how people are searching and finding your store, and of course what they're buying. But before that happens, it's a lot more difficult. So you're going to have to do some guesswork as you're setting up your store, and look at the leaders in your vertical. What are they doing? Now, if you're on platforms like Shopify, maybe you're uploading to Amazon also. One thing I will caution you about is to not upload your Amazon titles and descriptions to your branded website, because for search, that's horrible. Amazon has their own kind of internal search engine, which kind of bears no resemblance to what goes on in the outside world there. As successful as Amazon is, they're kind of a product all unto themselves. So I'd caution you against doing that. We have an excellent primer on our site on funnelcake.com that will show you how to do the product descriptions in your e-commerce store, the order in which various words should appear. So you can find that in our blog section.
Hey, Todd, related to that, what are some of the common mistakes that you see people make when organizing a store? That Amazon point, I think, is a really interesting one. But what else do you see kind of as worst practices, so to speak, when you're helping?
Well, the one thing, there's not like one thing. It's like we can look at a store and tell you your navigation is messed up because your hierarchy is messed up, and it's difficult for people to find. A lot of times this just happens kind of organically, because somebody sets up a store and they keep adding products to it, right? I mean, over months, years, whatever, they're just adding products, and that becomes kind of confusing to the business owner, because they don't know SEO, right? They don't really know user experience typically, unless they've spent many thousands of dollars to test that. So things tend to be spread out and not organized correctly, and that's what I would say the biggest mistake is not thinking in a logical structure. If you're selling bicycles, you're going to want to break those bicycles out by maybe the frame size, maybe the tire size, maybe if they're unisex, maybe if they're for commuting. Once again, you have to get your head around who your customer is, or who you want to target, and what they are going to respond to. And that kind of wraps into the whole best practices things and the common mistake. You kind of want to look at competing websites too. I mean, I do this a lot. And I think, some of the best examples for if you're selling one thing, you can look at the Skull Candy site, or you can look at the readers.com site. These are very, very different targets. Readers.com is, as you might imagine, reading glasses. Okay, so obviously that's a person who's 50 plus all the way up. Skull Candy is someone who wants to buy headphones, earbuds, etc. And these are both really well organized sites with their target customer I mean, they have a hardcore focus on the target customer and how they're going to respond to that site. And I can't tell you how critical that is. But these are, of course, companies that have massive budgets to do that with too. You can do this through just testing your site, see what is selling, and determining why that is selling, assuming that you're not driving advertising to those pages.
So
Now,
related to that, and I really love the advice to look at kind of industry best practices and what other people are doing, because kind of similar to my quip earlier about an FAQ page, right? Like there's a lot of no need to reinvent the wheel. And I think we actually see that a lot with some of our Gooten partners, like where our partners really add a lot of value to the buying experience is the creativity of what they've figured out how to sell, right? And the way that they're thinking about their space and the personalization aspect, and then obviously the brand loyalty and everything that comes with that. But in some things, store organization, for example, great to look at others and see what they've done well. But on that, like, are there any like product category specific best practices that you think some of our partners might want to know about? Like, if you're selling apparel versus something like home decor or art, like what do you think is what are some good tips and tricks there that people can take away?
well, I would not say that there is product category specific best practices, because it all comes down to the same logic. You have to know your customer, you have to know what they want to buy, and then you have to organize your site in such a way that it's logical to them. I gave you the examples of very simple sites. More complex sites, it's very interesting. If you look at the Home Depot site, right? They used to be completely focused on professional contractors and home DIY types. Largely, that's an 80% male audience. And the problem with that is that they come in, they buy a little bit once or twice a year, and their history. They don't come back on a regular basis. Well, if you look at the Home Depot site today, they have rebranded as a home store. You can now buy pillows there. You can buy blankets. You can buy comforters. You can buy all kinds of appliances. However, that's not in my store. So their e-commerce business is very different now than their individual local stores. And there's a lot of money behind that. Also, another company that does that, what I might say is look at the organization for Home Depot. They've done an excellent job, even though they break a lot of rules. They break a lot of SEO rules, things that I wouldn't do if I was working with a much smaller company. But of course, they have a brand that's unbelievable and spend millions of dollars promoting that brand every year. Someone who doesn't spend as much money promoting their brand is Wayfarer. They've got a website that will pop on the first page for just about anything in the home decor space. It's remarkable. And I'm talking the broad categories. If you're looking for wall clocks, Wayfarer is there. If you're looking for wall mirrors, Wayfarer is there. So they're always there up at the top, and they have a very interesting structure to those category pages as well. You can look at things like this, and you can extrapolate a lot of what they're doing. And that's why it's so hard to tell you what's a bad strategy for apparel versus if you're selling mirrors, because it's all about the customer. What do they want to see? How are they going to react on your website? Even though there's a lot of stores that will sell both of these things, so now you've just kind of canceled each other out if you bring in best practices for that very specific category.
Makes total sense. Thanks for clarifying. To kind of pivot a little bit, I know you have a wealth of knowledge, and we were kind of joking about this before the webinar started, about SEO. I think there's, our director of marketing has said this, there's kind of a lot of old and outdated information about SEO floating around. What do you think someone joining us today might have heard on the internet that doesn't matter, or they're missing something? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts just on SEO broadly and how you think about that with clients.
Well, if you're running an e-commerce store, you probably got one of those emails from somebody somewhere in the world that says, I can put you on the first page of Google in 2 weeks. Run as fast as you can from that, because while they may achieve that for you. In the long run, you're going to get burned heavily on that. That's called basically a link scheme, typically. And there are companies that go out there and they buy links in like forums on websites all over the world, like customer forums, and they stuff it with keywords. If you're selling pink t-shirts, the name of the customer in the forum will be pink t-shirts with a link back to your homepage. Well, as you might imagine, Google and Bing are pretty wise to this. And while you may get under the radar for a month or two, they will slap you with that. And then your entire homepage will be just tarnished. You'll get a black mark. We have actually run into this a number of times, and I'd call up the business owner, and these are big businesses. And I'm like, did you ever pay anybody to get links for you? And then they go on to explain, oh yeah, I think I did that 3 years ago. I was like, well, you've got a problem now. We have to clean all this up. So anybody contacts you about that, run as fast as you can. Another thing is what's called keyword stuffing. Years ago, like in the 90s, when this whole digital marketing thing began, and I still get questions about this, which I can't believe. So if you really wanted to hijack a search result or any result and just get your website up there, you would do white letters on a white background so that the user couldn't see it, but search engines could read it. And you'd put names of celebrities in there, like at the time, like let's say Pamela Anderson or something. And so you would get your site ranking for those kind of keywords. Now, Google wasn't real smart at that time about this stuff, and so it would work. But eventually you'd say, why? Because that's not who I'm selling to, somebody looking for this celebrity. But keyword stuffing still goes on. And I see that a lot in product descriptions and blog posts. And that's kind of useless. You want to make any product description or blog post readable by the user. Because once someone clicks on a Google search result and goes to that page, what happens on that page is essential for you getting served for that result the second time. Okay, if someone goes to your page and they bounce right off of it, that's death for you. What you want them to do is obviously convert on that page, or if it's a blog post, spend some time reading it, spend 2 minutes on that blog post, and hopefully click through and find out more about you. That's the result you want. So, you know, keyword stuffing, link schemes, just terrible, terrible, terrible for business. One of the other things that I still see a lot, people believe that buying ads on Google search helps you with organic. It does not. It helps you with conversions if you're doing the ads right, which can help you with organic, but the two services are completely exclusive of one another. So that's a big old wives' tale that's out there. Other people will tell you that duplicate content doesn't matter. Now, there's been a lot of confusion around this in the past year or so. And the bottom line is, and I've seen this for a lot of people who are reselling on Shopify, what a lot of times the manufacturer will say, hey, you can just download our product data, upload it to your site, easy peasy, you're done in 2 minutes, you're selling our stuff. Well, that's a really terrible idea. Once again, the product manufacturer has optimized that listing for their customer, whoever that may be. You have to optimize that listing for your customer. So you need to think about that. You've also got, we don't want to say duplicate content penalties anymore. That was the term for a while, but Google has duplicate content filters. And what that comes down to is the first website that put up that content is almost always going to be served for that keyword associated with that content. So you can upload that stuff, but you're not going to be found for it. It's just not going to do a thing for your SEO. You can certainly sell the product. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to change the product description and the product titles and the product metas so that they match your brand and your focus. I mean, some of the content that comes down from the manufacturer sites is really, really bad to begin with. And we've had to do a lot of work cleaning up sites that had that information in it. I mean, cleaning up thousands and thousands of products sometimes.
Yeah, Todd, I think that's a great point, especially as we think about kind of where Gooten sits in the transaction where we partner with partner with merchants and with manufacturers. And just so everyone on the call knows, because I think this is relevant and kind of interesting what we're talking about, when Gooten takes product data to put on our catalog, we clean it from the manufacturer. So we get assets, we get descriptions, we get information, right, that is very suited or sometimes not great because they're manufacturers. They're usually not awesome at digital marketing, but is tailored to attract kind of businesses like us. And then we take that content and we do our best to repurpose it and put it on our website to help explain the product to merchants. But I get questions fairly often from partners being like, oh, can I just copy paste, the product description, that Gooten has? And my answer is no, don't do that, right? Like make your own product description that fits with your brand. Definitely don't reinvent the wheel in terms of like, using sizing charts or, material descriptions, like the really technical stuff that you need to convey to someone to tell them like what it's made out of. Like, yeah, totally take that from us. You don't need to do a creative writing exercise, but in terms of, copy pasting off our website and putting on yours, like I definitely encourage people to spend the time, writing a description that will work for your store. So that just to kind of contextualize that too with where we're at in the industry.
Excellent, excellent point. Yes.
Great.
So,
sorry,
go ahead.
Go on, Todd.
One of the other things that's really important, I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to do your product descriptions, because you want to get the best traction out there, obviously in search land, and you also don't want to forget about meta descriptions and how they can differ, and it's totally cool if they differ from your actual on-page product descriptions. And let me tell you the difference between those two things, because I have yet to run into business owners who truly understand the difference here. So your product descriptions, no matter what platform you're on, and your product title shows to the user, to the customer, right? And it shows verbatim. Now, most platforms, I think all of them now, also give you an opportunity to do a meta description. Now, they may not call that, they may call it the SEO description or something like that. This is an opportunity for you to really maximize your search presence. If that title on your website kind of needs to be whatever it is, whatever you've said, and you've got all this long information in there, that may be really, really useful for the user who's coming to that page, and you don't want to take any of that out, and that's fine. But in the meta description, you can reduce that information to what someone in search really needs to lock onto for you to get that click. And that can be just, if you're selling the pink t-shirt with this famous person's face on it, and it's in 8 sizes, and that's all the information that you have on your front end, you can't put all that in the description because you're cut off after about 90 characters in your title. So with those 90 characters, you have to work really hard to say, what are people searching on? Well, the word t-shirt has to be in there. They might want pink, but they're probably more interested in that celebrity's face. So you'll want to say it's a Miley Cyrus t-shirt or something like that. That's the kind of information you want in your meta. Same goes for the product description, which this changes a lot as to how much is shown in mobile versus desktop. And of course, for buying things, it's almost entirely a mobile universe these days too, the customer end of e-commerce. I should say the consumer end, not the B2B end. So if that's on mobile, you've got, I believe it's 150 characters in the meta description to show. So your first 150 characters, that's not words, that's characters. That means that includes spaces and commas and everything like that. So you want to maximize that out. Once again, you want your major keywords in there, like your Miley Cyrus t-shirt, and then within the rest of that, you can say it's pink, it's available in many sizes, it can be worn for this or that, but you don't need to put in that kind of information. I see a lot is, click here for the best bargains in the universe. That's completely useless. No one cares about that, I'm sorry to tell you. They want information about that product. You want to think about that as a little mini advertisement for that product, not for your brand, for that product. All your advertising for your brand is on your website and should remain there.
Awesome. Thanks, Todd. Super good advice. Just one question that came in from the audience before we wrap up. I've got a few closing kind of housekeeping items, Gooten related. Question here that's any advice that you have on how a small business can get started with some help and avoid mistakes? If you could talk a little bit more about what Funnel Cake offers or any other kind of partners or in the industry that you would recommend, especially for people who are just getting started and probably don't have big complicated problems yet, but are looking for kind of low cost solutions or advice so they don't make some of those initial mistakes.
Yeah, we've actually got a number of plans. We deal with businesses who have very little money, like regional agents who sell healthcare we have, and we also have big national and international companies who sell like electric bikes. So we run everything from B2B to B2C marketing, and we will do something as small as, if you want to spend $1,000 a month on Google Ads and just do that, that's cool, we can handle that for you. Or we can give you the full, what we call the digital sales funnel, which is getting people to your website, exposing them to your message, and moving them all the way down through purchase and long-term purchase. This includes some business-oriented sites and also some consumer-oriented sites. So we really offer a wealth of services here at Funnel Cake. And if you're interested, please go to our website, funnelcake.com. That's Funnel Cake with a K in the middle of it. And you can reach out via our chat box there and get more information on our services. We also have them posted on the website there too. And always a great resource of information for you would be our blog section too. I frequently write most of that stuff, the majority of the stuff, especially the things on SEO I write. Might get a little wonky, might get a little deep into the weeds sometimes, but that's what people seem to like. I try to answer as many questions as possible. If you have a question, you can just reach out to me too on the Funnel Cake site, and I'm happy to answer anything you need to know.
Awesome. Thanks, Todd. Really appreciate you joining us today. I learned something. I'm sure people on the phone did as well. So thanks for sharing your knowledge and helping us learn a lot more about this part of the industry. It's very important.
Thanks for asking.
So just a couple kind of more housekeeping items for me and announcements, because I've actually already gotten some questions in the chat. I want to make some updates on our product side. So we've continued to grow and expand, adding new products and vendor manufacturing partners. So some new and notable items that we've already started to see a lot of traction in the drinkware category. We now have water bottles, wine tumblers, beer steins, pint glasses, probably forgetting a few, but a ton of new drinkware that's actually flying off the metaphorical shelves. We have stockings and tree skirts are back for holiday 2019. Those did very well last year. We've added duffel bags. Actually the product pictured here is our travel bag. The duffel bag is a softer, kind of more fabric jersey type feel. They're really nice, all over print. We have leggings in 2 different fabrics and men's and women's pajama pants. So there are going to be a few more products coming out that we will announce to you via our newsletter email, but just wanted to call these out because we've gotten a lot of requests across these categories and we're really excited to bring them in, which is great. On the technology side, just wanted to highlight some of our integrations. So we are known for having a Shopify app. We've had one for a really long time, but we do now have a WooCommerce and Etsy direct integration there. So super easy to get your stores connected and start connecting and creating products without any kind of technical or API knowledge needed. We now also have custom print neck labels. So if you're selling apparel and you would like to personalize the inside neck label of your apparel, your t-shirt, you can add your logo to have a custom printed neck label. It really helps kind of with that continuation of your brand to the end customer. I've heard feedback from some of our partners that they actually are able to command a premium when adding some more of those branded elements. We've also, if you've been playing around in the Gooten system, you might have noticed some kind of new user interfaces or features. Our design team's always working to try to make things very simple for you to understand, but also robust enough to support what you're trying to accomplish. So we have a whole new save and publish page at the end of our product creation page. Just gives you a lot more functionality and flexibility, especially when thinking about selling on different types of platforms. So obviously Shopify and WooCommerce and Etsy are all very different, and so we want to give you the tools that you need to customize based off of those and publish simultaneously when you're creating products if you have multiple storefronts. And then something that we've seen a ton of just order volume in terms of use of the feature is something that we just call needs customization. So if you followed any of the industry research, and I'm sure there's people on this call now who sell customized products, it can be very tedious to get orders synced up to Gooten or any other platform that you're using for fulfillment. But we have a feature now where we can essentially hold your incoming order. So let's say you connected a product to us via Shopify. You can hold that incoming order until you upload a customization to it. So that would be replacing an art file that's like a placeholder with a customized art file that has your customer's name on it or a special pattern that you've created for them. So this, from a workflow perspective, we've seen cut drastically down on the time that some of our larger stores have spent uploading custom items. As soon as they get all their products connected, orders just flow in automatically. They update the image file. As soon as they update the print file, they can push the item to production. They don't have to do anything manual in terms of entering shipping information. And then what I actually think was one of the secret, but one of the best parts about this is when the item ships, the tracking information is pushed back automatically to your platform. So if you were with Gooten from a while ago and you're uploading orders manually, not only do you have to upload the order manually, you have to then be constantly watching your orders page, making sure you're finding that tracking number and then messaging it back to your customer. But if you use our integrations and you connect your products to us and then use this needs customization feature for your personalized products, you don't have to do any of that. So that's a huge time saver, and especially during the holiday season. We have a big blog post and an article on our knowledge base about how to set this up. It's actually very simple. So definitely check that out when you are following up. All right, final thing, I'm going to read through the questions here and take some that I'm finding. So the first one I got is, oops, sorry, to go back. Anyway, just as Q&A. The first one is, where do I find the wine glasses and drinkware? I don't see them. Great question. Colin, do you mind pulling that up really quick? I think they might be called tumblers. Let me just try. We'll find that for you, and we will post a link in the chat just so you can make sure you find those. I have a question here about how I offer free shipping via Etsy when I link to the site. I'm not going to give you the wrong answer on this one because it's been a little bit since I've set up shipping on Etsy. We have a knowledge base article about this. I believe you should be able to overwrite your shipping cost just with 0 on the Etsy side so that your customer sees 0. We will still charge you for shipping, but you don't have to pass that through to your customer. I know there's been a huge push around Etsy recently as they're basically, telling people who are selling there that unless you have free shipping, you're not going to get surfaced, or you're basically going to go to the second page. Definitely check out our knowledge base, and we can actually send a link around after the webinar to some of the materials we put together on that, because I know that's a question that's come up a lot. Back to the wine tumblers. If you go to our website, they're in, oh, the organization is messed up. That's why you couldn't find them. They are called stemless wine tumblers, and for some reason they are in the mug section. So someone messed that up, but we will get those organized back to where you can find them, but they are on there and you can create them and order them today. They're kind of like if anyone's familiar with the company Yeti, they're kind of like that. They're like an insulated tumbler, really nice. A couple more questions and then we'll wrap things up. Yes, there will be a recording and a replay of this webinar. That'll be sent out to you via email. Also watch out for that holiday landing page, a ton of really good reading material, and you should definitely check that out. All right, one other question. Mockups. All right, yes, we get this question quite a bit. So I will be completely transparent about this with everyone on the call. On some of our products, I think we have pretty good product previews. On some of them, we do not. I will spare you the technical headache of why that is. But if you are looking to sell a product through Gooten, you like the product, you really want to get going, but you're just not happy with the product previews, I definitely encourage you to check out the sites Creative Market and Envato. Both of them, and we use them sometimes for product previews, have really great off-the-shelf like Photoshop templates or Illustrator templates of popular products that you can download, especially when it's something like a sock, or sock might be a little bit difficult, but something like a poster or even a pillow. A lot of times you can find product mockups that are pretty realistic in terms of what you'd be selling, even if that's just the image that you use as a placeholder on your first one, and then you have more detailed shots as you go through. If you're not happy with a mockup that Gooten offers I apologize, we are working on them, but in the meantime, check out those other resources because you might be able to find something for pretty low cost, a couple bucks, just to download a Photoshop file or a page that you need to get started on that. All right, I think that's all I have on questions. I know Todd's still on the line. If anyone else has any other questions for Todd on funnel cake, throw those in. But thank you so much for joining. I think this has been awesome. We're going to do a couple more of these this holiday season and have different guests joining us. You don't just get sick of my voice. And as I said, October 16th, we're going to do a deep dive on customer service. It's like the thing that you don't want to talk about, but it's super important. And we're going to have a lot of awesome content and material and tips and tricks and stories and stuff to share with you. So please join us then, and you'll hear more from us in the meantime. All right, that's all from us. Thanks everyone, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you.